Have you ever asked yourself why we do this? Why do we always seem to catch feelings for the wrong person? Let's go straight to the root of the problem. Think about this. Dudes today are pretty cool. They've got a lot of talent, they're tougher than most people seem to think, and they can make pretty much anybody laugh.
Jesus and his apostles are there with you. What did you just say? Jesus and his apostles?
Apostles.
No.
No, Frankie. They're apostles.
But it's spelled with a T.
I'm aware.
Most guys I know bring more to the table than they think they do. But, especially in our culture today, guys are emotionally starving. We don't have enough connection with other people. Hardly anyone appreciates us for anything. And don't get me started on how starved we are for affection. So it's like our emotion tank is empty and we're hungry for something, anything, to fill us up. And then women come into our lives, and they're beautiful, and they're sweet, and they make us feel the best things that we've ever felt in our whole lives. So because they make us feel the most feelings, whenever we feel that hunger and emptiness emotionally, we tend to look to a woman to fill it. But it can't just be any woman now, can it? Part of us is smart enough to know that an ordinary woman would never be enough because that empty emotion tank inside of us is just too big. She's just one little person. So we put her up on a pedestal and imagine that she's this special kind of beautiful angel saint who can be and give way more than an ordinary woman. Because for us to have any hope of being emotionally satisfied, she has to be something much more. She has to be the one, right? The one that will make us feel all the things we were either starved of or not allowed to feel when we were growing up. And as soon as we see a woman as that angelic source of satisfaction, boom, we catch all of the feelings and invest everything we've got in her way before she's ready. Now, you've caught one-itis like a disease, and she doesn't want anything to do with it because it's too much pressure. Next thing you know, she's avoiding you, and you're looking for another girl to be the one. But the tough love truth is, it doesn't matter who she is. She's not the one. You just need her to be. The one is not real. It's a myth, literally, it's a pagan myth. It comes from this pagan creation myth where the gods created humans originally with 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 heads, but they were too powerful for the gods to control, so they had to rip them in half and send them to opposite ends of the earth. And they had to go on this journey to find their other half. And until they found that person, they felt empty because they were missing their soul mate. Does any of that sound familiar? Now, it's not surprising to me to see a lot of people using this as an excuse to get out of relationships. Like, oh, sorry, I just don't feel like you're my person. But what is a surprise to me is to see just how many Christian leaders, my people, who play into this myth and perpetuate it. I mean, with a few tweaks, of course, right? Instead of the universe destining you to be together, it's God that's predestined his right person that he made just special for you, sort of. Or that at least seems to be how people imagine that it works. But it comes from the same myth, and you won't find anything about this whole entire idea anywhere in scripture. So a pastor friend of mine used to say that there's no such thing as the one. The person that you marry becomes the one when you marry them. Because you will marry the wrong person, or at least it's gonna feel like that a lot of the time, because whoever you marry, that person will be flawed and broken and selfish and empty and demanding and unreasonable and sinful, just like you and me. And yeah, it's gonna feel very wrong because she's not the one. You just need her to be. And for a lot of guys, needing her to be that angel is exactly what's pushing her away. A little bit of nervousness can be kind of cute, but neediness is repulsive. Now, there's a misconception we need to address really quick, because some guys might be thinking at this point, well, yeah, but I have all these feelings for her and all this affection for her. Isn't that something I'm giving to her? Shouldn't she want that? Well, not quite. We think that as guys because nobody appreciates us, and we wish someone would. So we assume that women feel the same way about affection that we do, when the reality is a lot of times it's actually the opposite for them. And also keep in mind that when you make her the object of your adoration like that, it might feel like the emotions are flowing towards her, but they're not. They're flowing towards you because you're the one doing all the feeling. So, bottom line, just because you're feeling a lot doesn't mean she's getting anything out of it. If she can sense that that emotion tank is empty, she knows, she can feel that, hey, this guy is gonna suck the life out of me. Just take all the time. I don't want that. That is not appealing at all. That is way too much pressure. I don't want to have the burden on my shoulders of constantly pouring into him and filling this humongous, leaky tank that he's got inside of himself. And of course, we know that, which is why, guys, simp. I talk more about this in another video. I'll put a link to it at the end. But she can tell that you're trying to buy her affection with all of your niceness, and she does not want to be purchased. Right? She doesn't want to feel obligated or forced or leveraged to give herself to you. She knows there's an empty emotion tank in there and that you're just looking to her to fill it. And she doesn't want that. She wants a guy whose tank is full and overflowing so that the stuff that he gives is real. Now, here's the problem. A lot of guys, myself included, struggle heavily to accept that this is true. When you're emotionally starved like that and you see the woman as your only cure, you will fight tooth and nail to defend and protect that fantasy because that's your only hope of ever being able to feel those things you're starving for. And if anyone suggests anything different, it's like your mental immune system will fight that stuff off, even if it's the truth. Because I mean, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, actually acknowledge the hopeless reality that no woman can ever fill the hunger that I'm feeling? No, of course not. I'm going to go create another angel in my head out of the next pretty girl I see and tell everyone, including myself, that no, it'll be different this time, you see, because fill in the blank. But in all seriousness, even though there is no way for that woman to fill that emotional starvation, the situation is not hopeless. I recently talked to a friend who just came out of that downward spiral of falling for the one over and over and over and getting crushed by it. And he said that one of the things that pulled him out of that was just realizing that he could become enough of a man without a woman's help. He had thought for a long time that it was just impossible for him to be enough of a real man because he was just, too broken or just not capable enough or didn't have the resources or examples around him that he needed to become a worthy man. But he said this really cool phrase that I have to share. Once you get rid of all that self-loathing nonsense, you can start to enjoy the process of becoming a formidable man. Once he realized that he could become something, he found that he slowly started to need that female fantasy less and less. And it all changed because he found ways to get his needs met without a woman's help. If you're a Christian, you already know there's only one way to solve this problem for real. Because our emotional starvation and hunger are infinite, we need a source that's infinitely giving and infinitely satisfying to fill that tank. And women can't even come close to that. But the God that we follow gave himself so that we could have access to all of it. Now, we might understand all of that in our brains, but in our hearts, we don't always connect the dots between the emotional starvation that we're facing and our experiences and the things that we feel for women. We don't always connect that stuff together, so we don't always do the heart work that it takes to get all of those places filled up and healed and taken care of by Jesus in a healthy way so that we can become someone who overflows to the people around us. So first, I want to encourage you that yes, all of that stuff is out there for you, and you can have all the fullness and goodness that God has to offer. Even if it seems like he's withholding those things or he's distant sometimes, if you turn from yourself and turn to him, he will always have that complete satisfaction ready to pour into you. Now, it may not look the way that you've dreamed about it with women, but it is there. Second thing is, I want to ask you, what would this look like for you? Take a second and just live in that headspace. Imagine what life would be like if you weren't starving emotionally anymore. How would people treat you differently if they saw you as an emotional resource instead? How much farther could you go in life? What would your relationships look like if you could focus on the character of the people instead of the feelings they make you feel? What could you do for God's kingdom if you became even more of a blessing to others by pouring into them instead of needing them to pour into you? Now, I know you probably clicked on this video looking for dating advice, but a lot of the time, the best relationships don't happen until after you've answered those questions and gotten to that place anyway. So it's definitely worth thinking about. So what would it look like to get healed, get plugged in, get on your mission, and get filled? And if you want to get to work on that and come up with a plan to make that a reality, but you're not quite sure what that would look like or where to get started, check the link below, schedule a time for a strategy session, and we'll work on it together. If any of this is helpful, be sure to hit the like button, let the algorithm know that you were here so I can keep making these. And you want to see more, hit the subscribe button while you're down there. And if you want to know more about the real reason why guys simp and why it's not always a bad thing, check out this video right here. That's all I got this time. Stay weird. Peace.